I'm going to show you guys how to install one of our nice shelves with the copper piping brackets. We're going to start out, I'm going to go through the tools and things that you need to do this project. You will need a level. It doesn't necessarily need to be a big level like that, but you will need one. I actually have a level that's part of this square as well. A square is handy to have as well. You don't necessarily need a drill, but a drill is helpful. And I'll do that in a little bit. You don't necessarily need a torque driver, but it's also helpful. It prevents stripping of screws when you're putting them into the wood. I have two drill bits. This one is a 5/64 drill bit. You don't necessarily need it, but it's helpful for putting the screws into the wood. This is a 3/16 drill bit. You need this for the wall anchors. These are helpful or required if you don't have the drills, and sometimes they're helpful if you can't quite get a drill into the spot that you need it. So I have both of the types of screwdrivers. You'll need a tape measure. I have more bits in case I need them. You'll need a pencil to be able to mark the walls. And this is all the hardware that will come along with the shelves. So you have three different, in this case we're going to be doing a larger shelf, so we have three different copper pipe brackets for that shelf, three different wall brackets, and we have wall anchors and screws to go with each, and then these are meant to attach the bottom side of the brackets to the wall and to the bottom of the shelf. When you're looking at the board, you'll see that I sanded down one side more so than the other. One of the edges will have a much rougher finish, so if you want it to look a little more rustic, you might have that one facing out from the wall. If you want it to look a little more refined, you can have the straight, smooth side facing out. And then you can kind of pick which side you want in terms of wood grain and stain to decide which side you want facing up or down. I want the smooth edge facing out in my case, and so the rough edge against the wall, and I'm going to have this side be the side I want facing up. And you kind of got to first eyeball where you want it, and talking to my camera lady, this is about where we want it on the wall, and I'm going to show you now how to make it level. There's two different choices. You can level it to the earth using a level, or you can level it to the room, which often looks more level. In older houses, the ceiling may not be level. My house is pretty level. You can simply make two measurements from the ceiling down to where you want the shelf to go, and that way you'll make it level. So we measured 42 inches is about where we want the top of the board to go. These boards are roughly 3/4 of an inch thick, so we're going to put about a 1/16 inch past 3/4. That's where the bottom of the bracket's going to go. So this board is approximately 48 3/4 inches long, and I want the brackets to be about 4 inches in on each side. So I need them to be, if you subtract 4 inches from each side, they're going to be about 40 3/4 inches apart for each of the brackets. So from wherever I put the first bracket, I need to move over 40 3/4 inches for the other bracket on the opposite side. So 40 3/4, I'm going to measure over 40 3/4. This is about where I want the second bracket to be. I have to measure from the ceiling as well. Remember, we had 42 to the top of the board, and 42 and just over 3/4 of an inch by a 1/16. 42 and 3/4 and a 1/16. It's right about in there. So that's where we need the bottom of the other bracket to be. So these brackets are each 1 1/4 inches wide. So I placed a mark right at 5/8 inch, which is right in the center of the brackets. And I'm going to be able to match that up on the wall to the mark that I made that's at the halfway point, so that I know I have it centered. And then I can mark where I need to put the screw holes for the brackets on the wall. So I put the 3/16 drill bit onto the drill, and I'm just going to drill through the drywall here. If you happen to hit a stud, don't worry. And I'm going to do the same here next to it. So we have the 2 holes for the wall anchors, and if I had hit a stud, it's okay, we're just going to use a different screw. Once you have the holes drilled, you can take the little plastic wall anchors, kind of squeeze the ends in a little bit, and they should slide in. If they don't slide in easy, you can kind of remount the drill hole a little bit more and try it again. So those ones aren't going in too tight. I'm going to take the drill bit, ream it out a little bit. It goes in a little bit easier. Alright, now that we have the wall anchors installed, we're going to take the screws and first get them started by hand. And then we'll take the drill to finish it. You got it? Just need to get them snug. Just like that. Alright, just to check, to make sure that everything is going to be level, now that I've got that bracket in, I'm just going to take my long level and span it between my 2 brackets. And when I look at the bubble here, it's pretty close. And so now I'm just going to finish up installing that second bracket the same way we installed the first. So we had planned for the brackets to be 4 inches from the edge of the board. So I've gone ahead and I've put a mark right in the center of the bracket here at 5/8 inch. And then on the board, I'm going to go ahead and mark right at 4 inches. I'm going to have it stick out a little bit, about 1.5 inches, so that I can see it when I put it on top of the bracket. And I line these 2 up to be able to make sure I have it centered. Right there, it's centered. And I can go ahead and mark where the screws will go. So now that I've had that marked, I could leave it here and go ahead and put screws in it, or I could drill pilot holes and then put screws in it. I prefer to drill the pilot holes first, so now that I've marked where the pilot holes belong, I'm going to go ahead and take it down and drill some pilot holes. So I put the marks here on the board, and I've got the 5/64 drill bit in, the little tiny one, and I'm just going to go ahead and drill, and I just need to get it kind of started. I don't need to drill all the way through the board. I just want to get maybe halfway through the board. You don't want to drill all the way through because then you'll see it on the top of the board. So that's it. Just get about, about 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch, maybe somewhere in there. You just need it to start the screws. Alright, now that we've got the pilot holes done, we're just going to use the screws and get it in. And with 2, it'll already kind of be holding pretty steady. But the 3rd one will really hold it. Now that I have that side done, I'm just going to leave this in place. And using that same 5/64 bit, I'm just going to drill some more pilot holes on this side. So just to make sure that we have it all lined up straight, I'm going to measure again 4 inches from the edge, and I'm going to have that be the center of where I want the copper pipe to be. So I try to line it up so that I get the back of the copper pipe flush against the wall and the center of the copper cap lining up with my 4-inch mark at the bottom of the board. I want to lift up on the board until I get this a little bit past level. And now I've got everything lined up. Put my bracket on the bottom. I'm just going to put two marks on the bottom here. Check and see that I'm still level. Okay. Check my marks again. Pretty close. I'm going to take my pilot holes, the 5/64 bit, and just drill 2 pilot holes. Not going all the way through the board, just getting it started. And don't worry if it's not perfectly level once you put this bracket at the bottom of the board. I'll show you how to level it again in just a second. You just needed to get it close. Okay. You win. Alright, so you can see we've gone a little bit past level, which is okay, but I want to get it a little closer to level. So I'm just going to kind of pull down on the front of the board and pull on the bottom, right at the bend in this copper pipe at the bottom here, and get it so that I have it about where I want it. And maybe tap it back up to level. Now I have it where I want it. I'm going to put this bracket in so that it's touching the cap at the bottom. That's going to prevent the cap from moving, or the pipe from moving up any further. I'm going to mark the center of the 2 holes and then remove the bracket here. And I'm going to put 2 new wall anchors in the same spot using the 3/16 drill bit. I'm going to ream them out again just to make sure that the bits slide in. I'm going to use my wall anchors again. Put my copper bracket on. When you're putting the screws in, it often helps to stop short of getting them fully tight on one side until you have gotten the other side good and started. Like that. Now we're pretty close to level in terms of our shelf. And now it's actually feeling pretty sturdy with just one bracket in. But I'm going to go ahead and add the other bracket. Alright, so I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. Check my level. And maybe push it up a little bit. You know, it's a little bit past level, so I'm actually going to kind of pull down on it a little bit and put my marks. Similarly, the bottom like that. I'm going to take my 5/64 bit. I'm going to drill the pilot holes. I'm just going to go ahead and install this side just like I did the other side. Okay, I'm going to check my level, a little bit past level again. Pull down on it, look at it about where I want it. Right there is level. And put this bracket on again on this side. And pull down until I get it where I want it. Looks like right about in there. Mark the wall. Okay, good and level, nice and sturdy, and actually it doesn't even need the third bracket. You can add it if you want for aesthetic purposes, but this shelf is good to go.